There is one as brain drain, the other thing is
Brain drain.
India can't give you what the US can, right?
Brain drain in India.
And yes, I'm contributing to it.
Why would I stay there if there are better opportunities and better pay for me outside of the country?
Leaving India was not an easy decision.
Brain drain.
Lost Indian talent.
USA benefits greatly from Indian talent.
Okay, let's talk about brain drain.
I think it's good for them, great for them actually. Like they are setting up brand new lives, they are improving their lifestyle. But personally, I want to go back to India for the simple reason that it was the issues in India that made me want to become a journalist. So I think for a country that's given me so much, I want to give back.
Why do you think that is happening? Why do you think so many young people, like educated professionals, are leaving India to start their dream job in the US?
I think it's sort of a paradox. India can't provide them the lifestyle that they will get in the US. But the thing is, these people come to the US, make the country better, and that's why the lifestyle here is better.
I mean, it totally depends on what opportunities are open for me at that particular point of time. If things are going good as they are currently, and I'm say like touch wood, I would probably stay in US and have my full-time job, and with my life partner I would like to start a family here. And after a certain period of time, it's like around 10 to 12 years, after making enough of like wealth and being like having accumulated a total amount of wealth which I want to, I would go back to the relations itself and try to build those as well.
I think there's a lot to that answer, but in short, yes, it is affecting the Indian economy, but then you have to look at it from a deeper perspective, because there is a lack of opportunity in India. There is a not so optimal work culture for people. You know, I have seen my friends being like utilized for like 70 hours a week and to no end. Like, you know, the next day if you work, you know, if your work is not up to par, you will be fired, right? So there is no empathy between employers and, you know, on the employer's end. And then you are just a pawn in an organization's workforce, right? So there is discontentment. There is, poor health among the youth. My friends are suffering from different, problems now at this early stage of their lives. And it is fair to them to consider what is best for them. I agree that, decisions are personal. And if they choose to stay here, even though the conditions in India get better eventually in terms of the work culture, I think it's up to them entirely. If they have the feeling that they can manage without their family, if the family feels that their, offsprings are, much better off living a good life in a much better country, then it's fine. But then, objectively speaking, every country has its own problems. You know, you're in the US, and then you always fear for your safety. What if, because there is gun violence, obviously. You have to account for that. In India, there is gun violence, but then there is family as well. Like, every nook and cranny you go and you find someone you know already. Here you can't reach out to help for anyone. So I think everything has its pros and cons.
I mean, the skilled workforce is coming out of the country and I am part of it. But if someone, like, what the reason for brain drain is that India is not able to give us the lifestyle and pay that we are getting outside, but it's that, like, the labor is cheap in India. We can't do anything about it, and that is the reason even IT industry is paying us less. So why would I stay there if there are better opportunities and better pay for me outside of the country? But yes, in a way, even I feel that this is wrong. Like, my country is suffering and even I am getting out of it.
I think for me it was two main objectives in mind. One which is a very personal one to me, but on the work front I would say that I think I wanted to escape the Indian work culture, which sort of prompted me to want to move to Boston or move to the US for a master's.
What is it that you did not like about the work culture in India, in Pune?
in not just in Pune, but I think this is at least what I've experienced a couple of offices across India, because even though I was based out of the Pune office, I used to work with offices from other parts of India. It was purely, there was more time spent in, you can say, politics, bureaucracy, which, you know, really takes away from the person's time to actually do work.
In India, there is a lot of work that you do. There's a lot of work that you do during your office hours, and you even at most of the times you extend beyond office hours working. That is not something you see outside of India. I don't know about Asian countries and all, but in Europe and in America, I've heard that is not something that happens. People log off after their work hours and they cover up as much work as like the amount of work they can do during their work hours, and the pay is significantly better here for in IT industry compared to what you get in India. Even for an entry level job, like if I do my bachelor's and get into an IT industry here or maybe in Europe or somewhere else, the difference in pay is significant, because I've heard that especially people who had foreign clients, UK based or US based, sometimes it used to happen that their shift was 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. But because of the time difference between India and US, they had to stay up late because US people would be getting up late. And so if you wanted to, like, half your team was US based, then you have to stay up late and you have to talk to them. So that was a problem there. And in India, you can't just say that, you know, my time is up, I'm going to log off, because your boss will shout at you. And you can't expect people from the other country to stay up late to talk to you, because they just won't. That is just not expected of them. So they'll say that, oh, you know what, after 6 o'clock my time is up, so I'm gonna log off.
But I don't blame the people who've come all the way to the US to start a new life, because it's what they want. They want a better life. I want to go back to India. So it's a matter of choice, I think. It's definitely sad for India because there are a lot of incredibly intelligent people who are coming here and making the US better when they could be contributing to India and bringing India up to this level. But again, like I said, can't blame them.
I mean, when I was working in India, I never thought that I'll be here in US. The major reason why it occurred to me was, like, in India, it is very, like, you have the assigned task and you have to just, like, work on those tasks. It is very difficult for you to, like, get some project which might be very interesting. What is next? Like, I can either switch to some other company or I can do my masters. Let's say I was also thinking about doing my MBA or MTech at that point of time, but you know, right, like what kind of competition is there if you're, like, trying to get a seat in a good MBA college in India. It is very tough to crack CAT, and I tried giving it, but my rank was like so big. I mean, I was pretty sure that I wouldn't get in some good college. And in US, I feel there is, like, this need of people who can, like, work properly and, like, who knows, like, what kind of things are there. Let's say from the technology side, let's say if you're taking some IT field, where if you know a certain programming language, US people would require you. I mean, they have this requirement of people, and that is the reason why I majorly thought, like, let's go to US. Like, why should I be spending this much hard work, this much effort, and from the project is not, like, supporting you in any way. Like, they are just going to, like, be there, like, you have this work, but they are not really concerned about your actual growth.
Have you ever thought of, like, maybe if I get a good job here with a 6-figure salary and, you know, get all the perks of being a journalist, then would you think of, like, staying back and starting your life here?
It's early to say, of course. Like, I mean, I've come with the determination to go back and make my country better. But I think greed comes in the way, and I mean, I'm also susceptible to it. So maybe there is a small chance that that'll happen. I can't say for sure, but I hope it doesn't.
So, not me personally. I have given this much thought, but to me, family is more important. And even though there is a lot of job security, more opportunities, I personally feel that in the coming few years, because of the next technological revolution in India, considering India will be becoming the forerunner in manufacturing with all the situation happening around like China and the US, and the emphasis on manufacturing shifting to India, a lot of opportunities will open. And going back in the next 2-3 years after I have just experienced what it is like to be in a technologically challenging environment, that will be the best decision for me and my family. So I personally want to go back.
Is this your first time away from family?
Yeah, this is my first time away from my family. I've
Walk
lived
us
at
through
home.
the experience of, staying away from home, like starting a new life here, being independent, or like starting to be independent. How does that feel like?
It's very empowering now. I mean, my first 2 weeks here, I only cried because it was very difficult. If I'd moved out from my house somewhere in India, I knew that I could see my family soon. But now I have to wait for a very long time to go and meet them. And I mean, video calling is great, but it's not the same. And I miss my friends. I miss my friends a lot. It's been a month, and it feels like I'm not going to make the same kind of friends I had back home, because there's a different kind of connection there.
I'm actually very curious to know, like from the people who actually stayed in US for a while and then moved back to India, like what was their major concern about moving back to India? Firstly, like this would be my major question, like why did you decide, at what point did you decide that you have to move back to India? Whether it was a documental issue, like you did not get a visa, or whether it was some family kind of issue, like you have to settle back in India and those kind of things. So that would be my first question. And the second question would be like, I mean, what kind of positive things that you found in India, like working from India, that you didn't find in like US? So I think that is something which might help me to also make this decision in let's say 7-8 years going forward. So yeah, that is something I wanted to know.
One thing I've realized with age and experience is there is always a trade-off involved in the decisions that you take and actions that you take in life, right? So our primary reason for moving back to India was to be closer to family, and it really worked out very well for us. So I'm closer to my parents too, and also to Rupa's parents, and even our daughter, she was able to spend time with her grandparents and with uncles and aunties when she was younger. So she has that connection, that relationship now. If we had lived in the US, from what I've seen with my friends, relatives, colleagues, that relationship doesn't exist, right? For them, I mean, these kids are born and brought up in the US, so their life is the US life, right? So they don't really relate to the Indian life, to their relatives in India, right? So that connection gets broken, and that's what now, when I talk to my classmates from IIT or from Wharton who are based in the US, like for example, even recently during COVID, many of them had to face difficulties because their parents were living alone in India, but they couldn't come here, they couldn't do anything for them, even when their parents were not well or they were hospitalized and so on, right? So they have some kind of regrets about that. But of course, now the other trade-off, the other side of the equation is, the reason people go to the US is because they think there are more opportunities, the quality of life there is better, so they want to give a better life for their children, right? So that's why they're willing to everybody has to sacrifice something, right? So when we moved back, the question I used to get was like, what are you doing here? Why have you come back? Like, with your educational experience, work experience, you could have lived just comfortably in the US. What are you doing here? Even now, people ask me in my company, why are you working here?
Yeah, it's primarily the way the things unfolded. I would not have thought that I would move back to India. In the year 2008, the recession happened, things spiraling downwards. So at that time, the permanent visas or the permanent work permits were not being processed. So we had to wait, and I neared the 6-year period for H1 visa that can be extended to. And that made me move back. And once I did move back, I was pretty sure that I did not want to go back, since if I go back, I would not be able to change positions for as much time as I get the green card and so on. So yeah, it was a couple of things. One, the situation itself, and then was my decision to just stay back and be in India. I think the working population that we see in the US versus what's there in India. In India, it's a younger population, right? A younger group of students who come out of college and join the company. So I would say that difference is seen. In the US, it's mostly seasoned professionals who know what to do. But in India, it's they know the technology. They know, the students know what's going on in the IT field, but then giving them the right guidance and I think mentoring them to perform in the IT field or perform in the workspace is what I would say the difference is, or what I have to cope up with. So a lot of times that's a plus for me as well. You sometimes even if you're just managing a team or managing a bunch of team members, you have to be hands-on and try to do it yourself, and then show the team the way so that they can start picking it up.
Started, my first job in India was in 1997 with a software firm, and they sent me to the US to do a short-term project for about 5 or 6 months in 98, which is when I first got exposed to both sides of working, right? And I felt like what I really liked about the US work culture was there's sort of informality in your work, in the sense people are casual, they joke about a lot, but at the same time, people are very highly accountable to themselves and hold you accountable to deadlines and to things that you say you will do. You're respected for what you do, and your personal time is also respected, which can't be said of India, right? Like, you work long hours, and very often it's assumed, especially if you're in high-paying jobs in India, that your time is mine, or your time is the company's. So there's certain elements of work culture in India which are not very respectful of an individual. But on the flip side, I think there are more spaces for creative expression here in India as a professional, because it's more your culture, your context. In the US, you have to adapt, you have to kind of do things which are more specific. You go there for a specific job. You can't go there and say, this is what I want to do. I mean, even friends I know who become citizens, they simply lack the cultural context to do things like what you're doing, right? Like to be a pure filmmaker in the US or things. It's not as easy as it would be in India because the context is missing. It's not your home per se. You didn't grow up. If I take my life in tech, I was a reasonable coder. I wasn't a really good coder, but I was okay. And if I wanted to stay in tech in the US, I would have to keep doing jobs. But to start something on my own in the US is not easy, right? Like, I mean, there's too many barriers to entry. But in India, I could start a very small software enterprise of my own, where I wouldn't have to be the coder. I could be more the business development salesperson, set that up easily, even have clients abroad, which a lot of my people I know who have done in India, because it would just be easier to set up a business in India. And now in the India that I live in today, you could easily start something which would actually be like a business startup as opposed to just pure software plays, right? Like, there are lots of creative ideas that come up now in so many areas where you can start a company with 10 people. Those options don't exist in the US as easily, I feel, for Indians. Just, until you get a citizenship, there's a certain progression.
Yeah.
And then you have to be part of a certain group of people. It's not just, I can't just be anybody and just say, I want to start a business.
Basically, what happened was once again, I was quite fortunate, right? I was at the university, right? I had an excellent advisor in my professor, right? Professor West. In his laboratory, I did my PhD. and he became like a father figure to me, right, here in the US. And he was basically advising me, right, on a lot of stuff. And through him, I got all these different positions, right? And as I said, once I started working, it was a totally different experience at RCA Research Labs. The stuff that was going on was very, very exciting. And then, of course, I got married and the family started, right? So, yeah, did I think about going back that time? Yes, I did. I did interview some places as well. But then my daughter was growing up, and so finally I had to make the decision. So and I was very happy with my job here, and I was also quite, I would say, quite integrated into the overall overall system. I would say, in terms of sports, in terms of television watching, in terms of friends, friend circles, and so all those combinations led us to basically stay back here. So, but I've been going to India almost every year. So I got family there. I go to my village. I got my connections into my remote village, and then I got people in Bombay, Bangalore, etc. So I know a lot of people. So I go there. And even after retirement, I've been giving talks in major universities in India for the last 10 years on innovation and things like that, and also at high school students, importance of science and all that. So I've been doing quite a bit of that and then writing other books. I'm also interested in Vedic philosophy and how it relates to science, modern science. So I've been writing some books on that as well.
Well, two reasons. First, it is, or it was not easy to get a job after PhD when I want to go back to India in late 70s. And what you could get was what I call a pool officer position. What that means is the government of India had created some pool of people who are trying to come back from US, and they put in a pool. And what I heard from other people, where it was just a holding place, there is nothing is guaranteed. So at the same time, I had a family and I had a kid, and really I wanted to work to really support my family. And that's the reason really that prompted me to even change my field, because at that time, even now, I think there are very few positions for a person like me who had a PhD in physical chemistry. So that's not easy to get a job unless you want to do or keep doing postdoctoral work and hoping for a faculty position. That takes several years. And again, my financial situation, I could not afford to have a family under a postdoctoral salary. So I had to get on a better paying job, and that's what I did. And luckily, in this country, there is a lot more opportunity, even if you really want to switch a field, as long as you can prove that you are good in that whatever field you choose, then always you can switch from one field to other field. So that's great. I mean, the opportunity is there.